Welcome to Beyond the Trophy. In this episode, we're diving deep into the challenges and triumphs that splitting image taxidermy faced during the tumultuous times of 2020 and beyond. Our guest, Doug Cockcroft, gives us an inside look at how the downturn forced his team to make tough decisions, including staff reductions, while continuing to deliver high-quality taxidermy. We'll discuss the importance of managing client expectations, adapting to new technology, and the profound impact hunting dollars have on the local community and economy. This episode sheds light on the behind-the-scenes dedication that goes into creating taxidermy that stands the test of time. Stay tuned as we explore the intersection of art, ethics, and conservation in the world of taxidermy.
All right, Doug, let's circle back around. We talked a little bit ago about managing expectations. And, I go with you a little bit. We're both business people, but let's go into that a little further because, there were some issues that were propagated by COVID.
Absolutely. I hate the excuse of COVID. I even, in terms of discussing this with people, I never say, yeah, it was because of COVID. I said, my terminology, it was the downturn of 2020.
Right.
But it was a radical downturn where we suddenly had to make business decisions to stay alive. And it was literally a case of, I'm going to have to, in hunting terms, cull off X percentage of my business and my staff and my overheads, or we're not going to make it. That's the brass knuckles of it. That's the way it is. So we went from a staff of, I think in 2019, of about 85 staff. 2020, I retrenched 42 people in one day. Sat down and offered retrenchment packages, which is a severance pay package. And I literally said, anyone who wants it, put your hand up. It was not done by saying you. I put it out as an open offer to the company and said, this is what I have to do. And 42 people took the offer. So we arrive in 2021, where we've used our war chest to keep the business open. We're working at a third of the hours that we worked in 2019 because we weren't allowed to work full-time every day. So the government limited the number of hours and days in our week. We'd lost half our staff, and we no longer had the cash flow because we didn't have a season of work and down payments to continue the cycle of business. 2021 ends, and people shot. They shot the lights out. It was wild.
Guilty.
We did 270,000 kilometers of driving in 1 year collecting trophies. 370,000 kilometers. That's a lot of time on the road. It's crazy. But we still got only half the staff. And unfortunately, let me get rid of a myth. It's a myth buster. Taxidermists don't grow on trees. Right?
It's true.
It's expected that in Africa, the work must be cheap, it must be great, it must be fast. It doesn't happen. And we couldn't find adequate staff to put into learnerships fast enough to create pieces like this zebra and buffalo above your heads and quality taxidermy that is going to last for many, many years and be appreciated by the hunter as well as people who look at taxidermy with a critical eye and go, wow, that animal's done beautifully. It's anatomically correct. It's symmetrical. I love the attitude in that mount. We were expected to take people off the street and get them to a splitting image taxidermy level overnight. Managing expectations, I should have gone straight to the client and said, we've got our backs against the wall. I'm still in the game, and it's going to take me at least 2 years to dig out of this one. But instead, I did what my enthusiastic self does and says, let's do it and let's do more. And we did. And I don't think we managed the expectation of the client well enough. So that's been something that has been a learning curve. We've now employed and put through learnerships many artists. And I'm grateful for the time where we had the downturn, because we've got an energetic new blood in the business that has got far more longevity than ever before. We had to embrace technology and efficiencies to get ahead of that curve. If we didn't, there's no ways we would have been able to survive. So quite often, to get through the tough times, you've just got to go deeper first and climb out the other side. And that's where we are now. So 24 for a company, our core focus is manage expectations. And we've had superb response. We're going to get a couple of guys that are going, hey, but you've taken 16 months to turn my work out, and that's not good enough. I'm going, guys, I'm sorry. I own it. We have taken 16 months. But if you dip and pack your work, and that takes 6 months, gets to the tannery in the US takes 8 months. And the taxidermist by average takes a year and a half in the US. You're in it for 3 years. I'm a year and a half faster. If you look at it from that angle. But because we all like that instant gratification, and we want the taxidermy now, the pressure's on.
And I think I can, I'll jump in there on that. I know from my personal perspective, so long as it's clear up front and it's
just be honest.
Yeah,
There it is.
right.
Just be honest.
I'm fine. I'm a big boy. I can take it.
Yeah.
And listen, all of us want our trophies back now, right? You know, we had the experience. We want it back as quick as we possibly can. Unfortunately, these things take time. But I think so long as you're just honest with people and tell them that, it's 90% of the problems are going to go away. You know, and you're always going to have, you know, those couple guys that you're never going to make happy. It doesn't matter what you do. You're never going to make them happy. So,
Well, we said it earlier. You can't please everyone.
no, you have to take it on the chin occasionally and just say, oh, shit, there's one that's mad at me. I'll just move on and keep going. But no, I think, and I've been here, you know, with you guys throughout, and I had trophies with you throughout the process. And, you know, I saw it firsthand. So I get it. And, you know, hats off to you guys for not only retaining the workforce that you did, but you've expanded since too.
Absolutely.
And employed a whole bunch more people than you had originally. So you took what could have been so easily an event that could have put you out of business, and you turned it around and used it as an opportunity to grow.
Absolutely. And an opportunity to express from an artistic perspective how much we can actually do if we put our heads down and go for it. But we've done things. That's sometimes hard to explain, much like you were saying about that giraffe. And when you watch the final footage, it might take 5 minutes, but actually it was 3 days. The work behind the scenes is often not communicated just because it's hard. It can't. And no one sees that. So no one sees the risk and investment in embracing 3D printing technology in taxidermy. No one sees the risk of saying, I'm going to employ 20 people today because they look like honest people,
right,
and have no experience, and I'm going to turn these guys into master taxidermists. And of the 20, 4 might make it. So the 16 leave, 4 stay, and I get another 10. And of the 10, 2 might make it. And after 18 months, I've got myself an extra maximum 15 quality human beings that we can really work with to create beautiful taxidermy.
And well, like I was shocked when I've not been here before, though you and I chatted several times and worked as well. But your videos don't do the operation justice. By the way, you can't to fathom the scale of what you've got going on back there. and I've watched all the sit videos, and I've watched the series, and everything, and I know exactly what I was walking into until I walked in the door, and then I did not know what I was walking into. It's so much larger, and the scale is so much grander than you can imagine. And that's one of the things, when we finish up here and go do that, I want to get this across to people is this is not a fly-by-night organization.
No.
This is a serious production-based taxidermy studio that doesn't sacrifice quality.
No, we will not, under any circumstance, and we won't sacrifice our ethics and what we believe in morally to be the right way to hunt and to process these animals. There's a foundation of respect. We respect the hunter. We respect the animals.
So, what we kind of went through this, and we'll end on this. Looking ahead, what do you see as the future of taxidermy and its role in conservation? So, how can the two work together to get us in a better place?
It might be your final question. It's a big one.
It is.
Yeah. Thanks for that curveball. I'll tell you about a small project that we've got underway at the moment. Over the past 3 years, every single buffalo that has come through splitting image taxidermy has been 3D scanned, and the files are being compiled into a data catalog to compare the range of buffaloes shot throughout South Africa. Over a 5-year period, my hope is that we'll be able to look at the files and say, there are certain patterns that we're picking up. And these patterns are because of vegetation, because of drought, because of any number of factors. I'll get a statistician to get involved, but we are spending time on extra projects. We're using the technology. So that's one of them. And I think that we're going to be able to have an impact on the industry in a sense of saying, here's some real statistics. And let's use these to educate and to grow the industry in a positive direction. So, yeah, I think that's hits there. For me, that
was a very good out. And of course, as soon as you're talking, I think of something else too.
Of course.
that we bridged over earlier, and I promise this will be the last one. We talked about trickle down economy, and hunters, especially first time hunters coming to South Africa, they don't understand the value of their dollar and how it doesn't just stay with the outfitter.
Right.
We've talked about this with PHs. We've talked about this with outfitters. Outfitters and PHs are reluctant to talk about it, especially the tipping side of the business, right? It's like this, it's a faux pas.
Yep.
For whatever reason, they just don't want to talk to it. It's like there's this moral compass gets thrown up. Like, no, we're not allowed to talk about tipping. We can't do it. But it's not just the tipping thing. It's the trickle down effect that happens when Americans or Europeans or somebody comes here and they spend money and they tip, and it funnels back down to the local economy. We saw it firsthand this year in that there's an orphanage in Turkestan that we went to called Sparrow, and I sat down with the headmistress and we filmed for quite a while, and she was super passionate. It was actually horrible. It was hard to sit there and listen to her talk and tell the stories about these children and not get teary-eyed in the background. It was tough, and it's not I had this conception, right, that, yes, there were some hunters that come over and they'll donate some book bags or some writing utensils and toys and stuff like this. But after that, that's kind of it. And that's not what actually happens here.
Oh, no,
so
it's not.
These outfitters are contributing to these organizations year round, even when hunters aren't here. And local farmers are also doing the same. But those dollars, that we're spending, they do go back to the economy. And I mean, you live here, so it's definitely worth more coming from your mouth, and you've seen it a lot more than I have. So can you kind of expand upon that a little bit for us?
Let's use the orphanage scenario.
Yeah.
I know Sparrow Orphanage.
Okay.
We've run programs with them where we take the children that get to 18.
So Unanimous Faith then.
And we bring them in and we give them the opportunity to work. That's done. So we'll say to them, no massive expectations. We'll find a place to fit you in, and you have a year's employment. If we see potential, we create long-term employment for them, or they can choose to move on in a direction that they want to. So the knock-on is not just the trophy fee that goes into the Land Cruiser of the outfitter. It's the families all the way down the chain. So I think I've got there must be about 180 to 200 staff members at any one time in splitting image taxidermy. So let's round figures 200. That means there's 400 parents in most cases. So take off a few here and there. And there's at least a brother or sister to each and every one of them. That's another 200. So it's 400 and 400. Now we're at 800. Just the taxidermy is contributing to 800 people. And that's this taxidermy business. What hunters bring to the table is pure generosity. Hands down. The fact that the US dollar is at a multiplier of 18 helps, because $1 goes a long way.
It does.
And it impacts people's lives. I've got staff here whose parents started working with me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I've seen these young people buy their first car. I've seen them get married and have their own children. And some of them, I've known them since they were, knee height. The knock-on effect in this industry is monumental. It is life-changing, because to a lot of these people, they come from an uneducated background, so they need to be given a skill. In taxidermy, we can teach elements of the art if they are not artistic, and we can create a skill for them. Yeah. What more could we want? We're impacting people's lives as hunters. It's radical.
I didn't expect you to go down that hole. That was a different direction than I was expecting. I honestly didn't put two and two together, which it makes perfect sense that your business is equally and all the employees that you have too.
We're all in it together.
Yeah, it keeps going and going. I know I saw a stat that Chris and I looked at. It was based on one small game reserve area, and we're talking about the economic impact between photographic safaris versus hunting safaris. And this particular graphic was, it was 290 photographic safaris contributed 16% revenue, and that 49 hunters over the same period contributed 63% of the total revenue.
100%.
Yeah, so it's not even, it's quantifiable, but it's so skewed in that the hunters contribute so much more than, a typical tourist would. So is there anything you want to ask?
No, I mean, we were just talking about the orphanages, things like that, but, back to what we were talking about earlier about the naysayers, I called. A lot of people, they look at that and say that's just a trophy, but, like we saw orphanage and we saw the freezers full of meat that come in, and that right there, a lot of people don't see that.
Well, and I think our visit alone sparked an additional visit from you and I, in that we, after we met with Miss Faith, and she kind of walked us through and, asked her, what do you need? What do you have? And she kind of walked us through. One of the things that popped out that I kind of caught on to a couple of days after the fact was she spent some time in their utility room, in their laundry room, and they have this very small residential washing machine for 35 kids plus staff.
Yeah.
And what they really needed was a commercial grade unit to be able to keep up with it. So I talked to Staffen and I asked Chris, and he was able to source it locally. So 3 days later, we showed up and we brought him a new washing machine for the kids.
And the impact of that, something as simple as a washing machine, something that is taken for granted in first world countries, that's a massive, massive game changer for them.
Yeah, and it's things like that. We as hunters have a big heart. That I don't think anybody can argue with that. There are some outliers that aren't that way, but for the most part, we have big hearts and we want to help. if we were better educated before we got here, then there's so much more we could do.
Yes.
You know, and that's the thing. That's what we were just talking about off camera. And I think, you know, it's also the outfitter's responsibility to educate their clients before they get here.
Yep.
One thing I'll say about Avula is with Chris having Nancy Gysin on the state side,
Yes.
it makes it very, very nice. You have somebody that's not a South African, that is on the same time zone as you, that is available 24 hours a day, and who's been dozens and dozens of times. And it probably the only person that I've met that's as passionate as you about hunting and conservation is Nancy.
She loves it.
She lives for it, absolutely lives
Loves
for
it.
it. And I think that's what kind of, for me, Avula does really, really good,
Yeah.
right? And there's no guessing. They're going to tell you what's going on. They're going to, you know, and they go out of their way to accommodate, you know, those kind of requests. You know, another outfitter, you know, the whole, I think the orphanage thing is thrown out there a lot. And you know, when I first came, I was absolutely 100% lied to, and that all the meat goes to the orphanages and it goes here, here, and
No,
here.
it doesn't.
Why?
It's because they're trying to create that sort of bleeding heart.
Well, but
Look at what you're
for
doing.
me, and for you, we're business people and we understand value. So to me, if you would just be honest with me and tell me, listen, a portion of it, yes, we do donate it. It'll go to this school or this orphanage. The however is, in order for us to keep these prices manageable so you can afford to come and hunt, we have to sell a portion of that end product to be able to keep the prices low. I'm fine with it.
Absolutely.
I have no problem. Just don't try to pull the wool over our eyes and lie to us. You know, I think if there's that, every time I have a new person come, they always think the same thing. It's been propagated over years and years and years. And
Years
oh no,
and
it all
years and
goes
years.
it all goes to this, it all goes to that. No, that is not the case. And all of my group this year, and I told them about it ahead of time, and then I showed them, and we went, you know, we saw the arbiter and we talked to him, and then we went to the orphanage, and they said, you know, he said, you explained it perfect. It makes perfect sense. There's a value, and that's how they can keep prices, you know, affordable. I'm great with it.
It's a great model.
Yeah, it's perfect.
You know, it works for everybody. You've got a well-priced, healthy, clean food source being put into the local areas. And that's all any family really wants. They want to feed their family.
Yeah. Well,
Have to eat.
They got to eat.
right.
Have to eat.
And the hunters are contributing to this because in a normal sense, those people would not be able to afford that meat. So once again, who's the guy who, without even realizing it, is doing a whole lot of good? It's the hunter.
There's hunters everywhere.
Doug, thanks a bunch for sitting down with us today. I
Thank
know
you.
we still got a tour that we're going to go do and put a video
absolutely.
together about the whole process. But, you know, for people that are coming over, they're coming on their first safari, maybe second safari, and, you know, they've watched our video, and then obviously we'll link to your YouTube channel and your socials. If they're interested in having you do the work, how do they get in touch with you?
On the socials, you can reach out to us on there. Our website is very comprehensive and has all the contact details attached there. We do have one of these bots where you can type in your query and it does come through to the central sales office and they'll reach out to you and say, hi, when are you coming out? What's the plan? Yeah, and because it's a personal industry, if it's a friend who's had work done with us, mention a name. I'd like to know your background.
Feel free to name drop is what he's saying. It's fine.
Or back
Go
in the
for it.
States, you obviously be at SCI. And
SCI, Dallas Safari Club, Houston, and so on and so forth. And we're there every single year.
great setup. We actually visited. It's
Yeah, it's been a privilege being involved in the industry, not only in South Africa, but in the US as well. Back to respect, I respect the US market for all it's done for hunting in Africa and South Africa. It has been a major contributor in where wildlife is in South Africa today.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for having us.
I appreciate it. And Mike, thank you.
sir.
Really appreciate it.
Love the enthusiasm.
And remember, guys, until next time, live free, hunt hard, and keep chasing that adventure.